Villanova had an opportunity to pull an upset. Did they let it slip away? Yes. But was there things to be encouraged by? Certainly. Does the night feel like a failure? We're going to talk about it next on Holy Nova. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Holy Nova. We are part of the Big East Energy Network. I'm Matt Janus alongside David White, right in the thick of the season. So we're going to be jam-packed all day, every day on this Big East Energy Network. We'll hope that you will join us on the journey. If you have not yet, please subscribe to the Big East Energy Network and like our videos. It helps us get in front of more Villanova fans. We're recording this right after Villanova's heartbreaking loss in their opener to BYU, 71-66. The final score, David, as you look back at how that game unfolded, it's head-scratching in so many ways. BYU was the better team. They just were. There's really no other way to describe it than that. And yet it feels like in some ways the Cats let one slip away that they should have stolen. What were your first impressions of this team?
Missed opportunities. I think, like you said, it felt like BYU wanted to give it away, and there were some opportunities to take it, and just missed shots, a turnover here or there, a foul, and just too many missed opportunities. I think that overall you have to be encouraged with a performance like this against a top 10 team, but I think that it's also discouraging knowing that you had a fighter's chance in this game. And unfortunately, at the end, you just kind of petered out a little bit. And like you said, BYU clearly the more talented team. And for large part, that's why they won the game. They were able to go to Bonsa at the end. They were able to go to Wright at the end and get a bucket, and it just felt like Villanova wasn't prepared to have that guy, especially when um, you've got Acaden Lewis sitting on the bench.
We've got positives, we've got negatives, and we've got things to lament. Do we want to start positive, negative, or things to lament?
Let's start with the positives. I think that overall it's a good game. You can't be upset about it. A 5 point loss to, like I said, the number 8 team in the country. I mean, I think that obviously people are going to look at Lindsey and say, great game. The shooting came around. We were waiting for the 3 point shooting. That was huge from him. But I think one guy that people are going to forget about is Duke Brennan. I mean, 15 rebounds, huge game.
I
Fighting
don't know
with.
who, if you're forgetting about Duke Brennan, you were watching the wrong thing. That guy was Villanova's heart and soul. He might not have the most talent. He might not be able to score from more than 5 feet away from the bucket, but he's not going to get out competed by anybody, is he?
No, I mean, I loved early on in the game. He dives on the ball with Kada, and they both refuse to let it go. He eventually does because the refs tell him to. But that kind of fight, yeah, it's invaluable. But yeah, 15 boards. Like, kudos to him for that performance.
Indeed. And it was also the toughness defensively and kind of willed his team to stick around when it looked like Villanova might get blown off the floor the entire first half. They were on the precipice of disaster. They started 1 for 13 from 3 point range. Nothing was going right, but Brennan mixing it up, staying involved on the rebounding side of things, altering shots near the rim, and just forcing BYU to have to settle for perimeter jumpers, just like Villanova was. There was a stretch of that game where BYU was getting some paint touches, but Villanova was altering shots near the rim, and then all of a sudden that young BYU team, I don't know about you, David, I thought they started to kind of be lulled into Villanova's game. They played a slower tempo. They started settling for perimeter jumpers. And the difference off of their perimeter jumpers versus Villanova's, they weren't coming off of ball movement, whereas the Wildcats, they couldn't hit water from a boat, but at least they were moving the ball, reversing it, and getting a ton of offensive rebounds off of their missed threes, whereas BYU was settling for quicker shots, more one and dones against a weaker rebounding team we thought coming in. And
Yeah.
that was all Duke Brennan's presence. He seemed to kind of make that happen all on his own, along with Matthew Hodge keeping some balls alive and Gapare when he was in there as well.
I mean, to win the rebounding battle when you are BYU is bigger than you at every position on the floor, and to win by 6 is huge. I mean, we said keeping it with it. I said, did I say 15? And you said under 10. I mean, to win by 6 is beyond my wildest dreams for what this team would be able to do. But I think, yeah, BYU kind of started to settle, and then around the 5-minute mark, I don't know what happened in a timeout, but they were told to go to the basket, and they started attacking the basket, and that was ultimately what decided the game.
All right, let's wait. One more positive that we got to get to. Chris Jeffrey was magnificent. I thought Chris Jeffrey, in many ways, turned the game. Bryce Lindsey making threes, obviously, is the headliner. Duke Brennan kept them in the game with his physicality, but it was Jeffrey's presence when your first two-line point guards, Acaden Lewis and Devin Askew, just didn't have it. They did not have it. It was not their night, and we're going to get to that on the negative front in a moment. But Chris Jeffrey comes into the game, end of the first half, provides a spark, and then when he came back in middle of that second half, that's when the true comeback really started to begin in earnest, and the snowball of momentum began to build. He finishes the night with 11 points, 2 boards, and an assist, but it was just the way he walled up defensively, his physicality on the defensive end, and also just moving the ball. He moved the basketball when they were in their offense and then set screens to get Bryce Lindsey open. He also had the timing on those ball screens down pat, whereas Villanova was having some problems with those interchanges a few times. It led to one moving screen called. It led to a couple of turnovers. It also just led to some stagnant offense. It felt like when Jeffrey was in there, the timing clicked a little bit better, which is weird because, he's the backup point guard with Askew injured, but we thought it was going to be the third string point guard. And yet, in a lot of ways, he looked like the most effective guy out there tonight at the point.
Oh, I think he deserved more minutes. I think he looked great out there. He played hard. I think defensively he looked good. He's fighting over screens. So, yeah, I agree that of the 3 point guards that played, he definitely had the best game and would have loved to see him in a little bit more.
Okay, let's pivot now to the not so good. It's a loss. We've got to address it. Start with Acaden Lewis. We have been banging the drum on how good this kid's going to be. It's one game. He's still going to be a really good player. But you could see it right from the start. First possession of the game, he starts dribbling aimlessly on the perimeter. He lost the handle not once but twice, and then threw an ill-advised pass. And I don't know if that threw him off or if he was too charged up. Whatever it was, that wasn't the Acaden Lewis that we saw in his high school film, that we saw in the 2 exhibition games, that we heard about in practice all off season long. That looked like a different guy, and so much so that Kevin Willard went away from him. He did not play hardly at all in the final 15 minutes of that game. He had 5 minutes the entire second half.
I mean, he only played 22 minutes and took 6 shots. So he's just playing a little timid. I mean, I guess some of that is to be expected from a freshman. First time the lights are really bright and you're on national TV and you're following up Florida, Arizona game. You're only getting 30 minutes to warm up. But yeah, I think he was a little too timid. He needs to find his shot. He needs to get into the lane. He needs to be that creator. And I think down the stretch, that's really what Nova was missing, was somebody to create for other guys. So we'll see. It's one game. I'm sure he'll learn from this. I'm sure that Kevin Willard has plenty of tape to pull, because I think that he had some opportunities during the game that he just didn't take. So that would be my takeaway from him, is he just needs to be a little more aggressive. We were worried about him being too aggressive in this game, and it turns out he was just too timid on the ball.
How much do you think BYU's length impacted him? Because it did feel like, that pick and roll game that we had talked about at such length that we saw in both exhibition games, that he was so magnificent running. when they tried to go to that early, when he tried to throw over the top, a lot of deflections. When he tried to go downhill, he almost seemed to end up fading away from the basket or lose the handle because guys were reaching in on him. It just felt like the length threw off everything he was trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and I think he wasn't softening up the defense. Sometimes you got to drive to look for the pass the first few times because then you get that defender to lay off, and now your shot's open. So I think he was just looking for the wrong thing, trying to throw over the top from the perimeter against a guy who's 6'10", 6'11", is not going to work most times. So just understanding those situations where, okay, I got a screen, I have a big guy on me right now, I need to drive him and look for the next play, not trying to throw over him, throwing underneath his arms, that kind of thing, to soften up the defense, which will cause them to back up a little bit and either give you a three or a mid-range jumper. So he'll learn from this.
Devin Askew, warrior for coming back earlier than we expected. At one stage, we thought it was going to be mid-December. Then it ends up it's going to be late November. Then we're hoping maybe mid-November. And suddenly he's ready to go for the opener, which we all thought was great news. It is good to see him back. They need him. He didn't have it tonight. He wasn't himself physically. You could tell. I thought he competed defensively to his credit. He tried to be physical to kind of make up for some of the lack of maybe quickness that he had coming back from the injury. But at the under 8 media timeout, I looked to the stats. I'd been trying to avoid them. I was trying to just kind of get a feel for the game and not be too stat beholden. But it got to the point where I needed to see what his over or his plus minus was. And I asked you, I sent you a text. I said, what do you think Devin Askew's plus minus is before I checked it? And you said minus 12, which is exactly right in the vicinity of what I thought it was going to be, which isn't too good. And again, plus minus is a deceptive stat. There's a lot that goes into that. You have to be careful reading too much into it. But he was minus 17 at that point. It felt like he was struggling to get stops. He wasn't much of a threat offensively. And in the Villanova offense right now, that everything is so clogged because outside of Bryce Lindsey, there's no threat to the defense from the perimeter. I mean, they shot a ton of threes. A lot of them were good looks. They just weren't going in unless Bryce Lindsey was shooting them. So you have Devin Askew out there who is struggling to make shots, but also doesn't have that quickness to do much off the bounce. It's just clogging space, and it seemed to be an issue for them offensively when he was out there. It felt like they struggled. Again, understand he's coming back from injury. Understand there are reasons why. Not trying to lay the blame on his feet. It just didn't work with him out there, though, it felt like tonight.
No, I agree. I mean, clearly he's not 100%. He wasn't 100% tonight. I think that Willard was probably, because that Acaden Lewis was having such a struggle offensively, was probably trying to look to Askew's leadership and his knowledge of the game and the fact that he's been around for a long time to help them out. It was just clear that he didn't have whatever it is that he needs. I'm sure he's going to get it. I'm sure as he gets back into game shape, as he's practicing more, it's going to come. But yeah, tonight, you could tell that he's not 100%. He's not going to all the way there yet. And unfortunately, neither was Acaden Lewis.
This game wasn't as high scoring as either one of us anticipated, and the final score ends up a little bit closer than we both had it. We had it an 8-point game, and right around mid to upper 70s. It ends up upper 60s, which certainly helped Villanova stick around when they were struggling early. But we both nailed the issue for Villanova, why we thought they'd be competitive but come up short. Their 3-point shooting it has to get better. It just does. Yeah. If they're going to compete against good teams. I mean, it was remarkable what Bryce Lindsey was able to do, and he put the team on his back. He was 5 of 9, which is a great 3-point shooting night, but it's not Steph Curry transcendent, but it felt like it because the rest of his teammates went a combined 5 of 26 for 3. And the wildest part about it, of the 26 3-point shots they took, 20 felt like they were pretty darn good looks, did they not? They came off ball movement, they came off reversals, they came off of paint touches and kickouts. Everything you want out of a three-point shot, Villanova was getting them, with the exception of 5 or 6 stagnant, frustrated off the bounce threes. Everything else seemed to come within the rhythm of the offense, and they still weren't going in. And quite frankly, they looked off from the moment they left their hands most of the time.
Yeah, I think they were open shots. I'm not prepared to say they were good shots because sometimes
Right.
you are open for a reason.
Right.
I think
That's fair.
but they did come in the flow of the offense.
That's right.
Uh,
Conceptually, in the game
yeah,
of basketball, you would think they're good shots.
yeah,
Maybe we will come to learn that this team, they shouldn't be shooting this many threes. But in the flow of offense, that is how you want to draw it up. That is what Kevin Willard wants his offense to look like long term. They just either have to start making threes or get better shooters down the road.
yeah. I mean, that's gonna be the end. You have to make some of these. There were a couple of times, like I said, when we came on, missed opportunities. I can remember one with probably about 7 minutes left, down one. You come down, Tyler Perkins has a wide open three in the corner. You got to make that because it was off of a turnover. All the momentum's on your side. If you knock that shot down, BYU's probably going to have to burn a timeout because they're a little flustered. There were others where games tied and you get an open shot, and somebody has to step up, make that shot, or not take it. Especially in those big situations. Everyone knows them. There's one or two, maybe three a game where it's just like, that's a momentum killer. You take a shot that should be a good shot. It's an open shot. If you're making it in practice, it's a good shot. You have to make it in the game.
Let's get into specifics. There were a couple prime spots. Down one after you had fought your way back. It's 51-50. You come down, you get a wide open three. It was Matthew Hodge actually had this one, and it clangs off the backboard. I think he rushed it. Again, BYU's length, and I think he rushed it. And at that point, you think, oh, brother, BYU gets a rebound to come down. They get a layup, and you're thinking, I think that might have been the end of Villanova's chances. But then that's where Bryce Lindsey comes in, and he answers with a three. And then he hit another 2 trips later, and suddenly they have their first lead of the game. So you had moments and exchanges like that in the second half where it felt like Villanova was either on the precipice of stealing this game or it completely falling apart on them. And it just kept going back and forth. And to their credit, they hung in there until about the 3-minute mark. And then that's where the dam finally broke for them. We're going to get to one of the reasons why the dam finally broke. I had a couple issues with it, but we'll get to that in a second. You had a couple issues with Tyler Perkins taking some threes. I mean, what's he end up with? 6 3-point shots attempted. He only makes one of them. Now, 2 in his defense came on bad possessions where the shot clock was winding down. He didn't have a choice but to take the 3, like the air ball with about 4 minutes to go that goes out of bounds. He gets the ball back with 3 on the shot clock. He's got to let her fly. But
Exactly.
There were a couple early in clocks where it's just like, I feel like you get a better look than that. And I think at this point now, we saw that from Tyler Perkins last year. He does so many things well. The intangibles, the toughness, the ability to make a play when it feels like the other team has momentum, which to me is a huge skill in college basketball. A lot of guys don't have that. Tyler Perkins does. But what Tyler Perkins doesn't seem to have is the ability to make 3-point shots with any kind of consistency. But he keeps taking them like he thinks they're going to start to go in with consistency. And it hurts. It hurts to watch them, obviously, go at the rate they do. And I just at this point don't have a lot of faith that they're going to start to go in.
No, and I think the one that I texted you about was probably about 3.5 minutes left. It's either a 1 or 2 point game. He comes off of the screen. There's probably still 19, 20 seconds on the shot clock. And he pulls up from 3 because the defender goes underneath it. And at that point, you're just like, they're giving you that shot. The defender went underneath to stop the drive. They want you to shoot that. You have to be disciplined enough to not take that shot. let the offense come. If it comes to you with 2 seconds left, yeah, you just got to get it up. But at that point, with that much time on the shot clock, run some offense and find a better shot.
Only 3 guys shot 33% or better from 3, and 2 of them made 1 3. Chris Jeffrey went 1 of 2. Malachi Palmer went 1 of 3, and then obviously Bryce Lindsey went 5 of 9. Matthew Hodge, again, an example of a guy that had to wait a whole year. We knew there was going to be rust, figured there would be some moments of growing pains. Did a lot of good things, got himself open, went to the basket, good cutter, keeps possessions alive, reverses the basketball. But 11 three-point attempts, a lot of them good looks, and it's just they weren't going in. He's a guy I think they're going to have continue to shoot the ball, but the answers are going to have to come. And you can see Kevin Willard's frustration growing, and he was changing his rotations up to try to find something. He did in Bryce Lindsey in that second half, and to his credit, he rode that hot hand. Lindsey played the rest of the game. He did with Jeffrey, and for the most part, he left Jeffrey out there. He took him back out a few times and inserted Askew, which I was surprised by. But Kevin Willard's going to go with what works. That's the good news. The bad news is you only have the options available to you. And, I know that the broadcast kept pointing to the return of Zion Stanford. That will help. He would have been critical defensively tonight, but he's not known as a three-point shooter either. So he's not going to come back and suddenly fix all your perimeter ails.
And I don't think the problem wasn't on the defensive end. The problem wasn't rebounding, which we thought may be an issue. The problem was just the ability to make shots. And I don't mean to beat up on Tyler Perkins because I think he had a good game. I mean, he also had 9 rebounds, which definitely helps with the rebounding margin. So
again, the intangibles, the little things, he brings so much to the table. Just perimeter shooting isn't really one of them.
He was invaluable to the effort tonight. It's just that shot, either you have to make it more consistently or it has to come out of your game. One or the two. It can't be that you keep shooting these and missing them. So that's going to be the problem. Obviously, Zion Stanford gives you a little bit more of a presence. Because I also think missing was a presence down low. Brennan tried a couple of times to go at Acaden, and it just didn't work out. I appreciate the effort. Acaden was clearly stronger, though, and it kind of threw Brennan off his center of balance, especially when the rest are letting you bang down there. But having some sort of post presence would be great. There are a few things just offensively where you have to get the ball to go into the basket.
Okay, another thing, the end of the first half, the last 75 seconds of the first half, unmitigated disaster for Villanova. You look back at moments of what could have been in this game. You scrap and claw your way to within 6. No idea how you got there at 35-29. I mean, it's just a disastrous first half in so many ways. And yet you felt like, holy smokes, they're in this thing. And they get a stop and a rebound. So now you're down 6, minute to go, chance to build major momentum going to the locker room. Bad shot off one pass from Malachi Palmer. It was cross-court feed, right wing 3, kind of a fadeaway. Didn't feel like it was a 2-for-1 shot. It almost felt like a heat check 3, but I mean, nobody deserved a heat check at that point. You hadn't got the portion of the game where Bryce Lindsey's knocking him down. I don't know, but he decides to take the shot. It glances off the rim, long rebound. BYU's out the other way. You give up 2 offensive boards, and then Palmer picks up a flagrant foul for grabbing DeBonce's arm on a third rebound attempt. 2 free throws. They get the ball, another offensive rebound, another foul, 2 more free throws. Suddenly you're down by 10. Then Acaden Lewis comes down, makes his first 3. You're thinking, okay, maybe that's a little momentum for Lewis. You're within single digits. BYU comes right back down. You double with Devonta going away from the basket, I understand how good and skilled he is. I understand you want the ball out of his hands, but you can't leave a guy who's a good three-point shooter that wide open in the closing seconds. You got to kind of make Devonta make a jump shot to me at that
Yeah.
point. There's 4 seconds to go. And instead, he passes to the open guy. Credit to the freshman for making the unselfish play. I didn't think he always did that. I thought he looked for his more than had been advertised in that game, especially in the second half. But he made the play there. They knocked down the three. It was such a deflating moment going into the locker room.
Yeah.
Now, Villanova rebounded and played well in the second half. But if that is a 5-6 point game, suddenly Bryce Lindsey's heroics might have you up 6-7 points, and then who knows how it plays out. You just put yourself so far behind the 8 ball with the way that first half closed. It was hard to make up.
Yeah, and it's just you don't have that margin for error. I think defensively, as well as I think they played defensively. I mean, BYU missed some shots that they're probably going to hit later in the season, but I think overall they played well defensively. But there were some things, just head scratching things, where you're helping from the strong side on a guy dribbling around the perimeter. So I'd say I could count 4 or 5 times where they did that, and they just throw it to the corner, and now you have an open corner three with the guy scrambling to get back. I also just think that on the ball screen, I don't know what the defensive call is, whether that's scramble over the top, whether that's hedge, but whatever it was, at times it was bad. And it was just laying on the screen and then letting the ball handler get downhill so that either Brennan has to step over to help or he stays back and you get a layup at the rim. So those are 2 areas defensively where I think they can improve, and probably some of that's communication, some of that's just clarifying what we're doing defensively, whether we're going to double from that strong side or what's going to happen. But if you're going to double from the strong side, somebody has to get the corner. You can't just leave a shooter sitting out there wide open.
All right. It is, 1 o'clock in the morning when we are taping this for our Tuesday release. We're going to be here, by the way, every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 noon. That's our new regular rotation. So you'll join us for our premieres on YouTube. You can catch it anytime after that, though, of course. And if you're still watching at this point, please like the video. It helps us get in front of more Villanova fans, and subscribe to the Big East Energy Network coverage. We're going to be jam-packed day after day, hour after hour, fresh videos, content. 9 of the teams covered. We've got the league-wide shows, Big East Energy Weekly, Big East Beat. We've also got our women's show with T. Baker. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to do a women's show on Thursday. We're not ignoring the fact that Villanova women's team was in action tonight, got the victory in their opener. We're doing all women's basketball on Thursday night, as they've got another game coming up on Wednesday. But can I rant a little bit? Can I go to negative town now for a little? I think that I kept this together for a pretty good stretch in the first half hour of this one. Let's start with, and I apologize, I keep drinking the tea here. I'm hitting the tea pretty hard, as I did a game earlier tonight as well, and then rushed home to watch this one. I understand Brian Anderson called 2 games. Could you have possibly had any less energy than Brian Anderson had over the course of that broadcast? Did it not sound like the man wanted to be anywhere but at that basketball game over the course of the night?
The broadcast was terrible. There were times, I remember one time, there was just nobody said anything for like 3 minutes of game action. And I was like, did I lose the sound? What happened here? And then all of a sudden, Grant Hill decided to pop in with something. But yeah, it was not.
I like Grant Hill. I thought Grant Hill did a good job. I just don't think Grant Hill can do the whole broadcast by himself. I thought Andy Katz was talking about some weird stuff. And, a friend of Big East Energy Network. I know he did the interview with Mark at Media Day. I know he's been real good to him. I like Andy Katz. I didn't think this was Andy Katz's best night. And then Brian Anderson, who is a phenomenal baseball broadcaster. And listen, I'm going to be honest, a better broadcaster than me, but that was terrible. I mean, that was just brutal tonight. And not only that, like he clearly thought BYU was a better team, and he was right about that, by the way. BYU is the better team, but he just seemed to stop paying attention to the game, and he kind of lost track of the fact that Villanova was working their way back into the game. I think at one point they had cut it to 3, and he's still talking about how BYU's in complete control. And then Villanova got a bucket to cut it to 1, and it was like he had looked up at the scoreboard for the first time in 15 minutes because you heard it audible. Oh, Villanova back in this game. Like, where you been, Brian? Are we doing a game or are we doing a talk show? Then the DeBonsa family interview. No problem with that. I understand he's the story, but why are we doing that with 11:25 to go in the second half, right as Villanova's finally got back in the game? That's a first half 16, 12, somewhere at that stage. You know, whenever they were doing that nonsense about Andy Katz going to the doctor, that would have been a really good point to play the DeBonsa family interview instead of that. Like, I don't understand if we're staying up till 10:30 at night on the East Coast to watch at that point, 11 o'clock, 11:30, it finally ends at around midnight. Why we can't just at least keep the game as the primary focus? We could do the other ancillary stuff, but we're here to watch the game, and they just seem to lose complete track of the game, did they not?
Yeah. It seemed like they were clearly prepared for the Florida-Arizona game, and then they said, "Oh crap, we got to do a second game." We just
that was it. That was the other thing too. In the midst of Villanova's run, we showed an expanded highlight package of the Arizona-Florida game. We just had halftime. We literally just had a halftime show. Why do we need to go and revisit this 15 minutes later? Twitter exists. Like, if you want to watch those highlights, we will find them. Trust me, we will find them. We don't need them in the middle of gameplay. We missed a possession because they were showing highlights of the game that had already happened an hour and a half earlier. It was not good, not a good broadcast in any way, shape, or form. And then, listen, again, BYU better team. Villanova did not lose the game because of officiating. Villanova didn't get a lot of favors from the officials, though, over the course of that game. And here's the big one. Here's where it did play a huge factor in Villanova losing the game. And you tell me if I'm completely off base here. But so Matthew Hodge, with about 7 minutes to go in the second half, gets called for a moving screen. Ball screen comes in and clearly extends his arms. Brian Anderson tells us it's a great call by the officials. Clear and decisive. You know, Grant Hill wasn't so sure. Grant Hill played in the NBA for 20 years and is the Hall of Famer and is the analyst and the expert. But Brian Anderson spoke definitively that it was a great call. I didn't have a problem with the call. I get why you call that a moving screen. A little ticky-tack, but I get it. BYU's entire offense, the final 4 minutes of the game, spread the floor, ball screen, and then have Acaden just run his derriere into Duke Brennan, who's trying to come over and help on the guy going to the basket, and literally look like a fullback running through the hole and running a lead block. It wasn't a screen. It was a lead block, and it happened not once, not twice, but 3 times. Finally, the 4th time, it was a legitimate ball screen interface where he turned. You're allowed to do that and opened up. The rest of the time, he's going from side to side, trying to keep position in front of him while engaging in contact. I'm sorry, that's way more of an offensive foul than a little bit of an arm movement on a ball screen. It's the difference. The ball screen leads to the guy getting the ball 25 feet from the bucket. The interference that you're running while being physical and moving laterally, that is leading to layups and dunks. What has a greater impact on the game?
No, I agree with you. The Matt High, it was a bad call. It was the right call by the letter of the law in basketball, but the way the refs were calling the game, it's a bad call. You're letting them play. I have no problem if you let them play and you're kind of letting Acaden get away with some stuff, but you can't call the moving screen on Hodge. You just can't. Those two things don't work. You can't call upgrade a foul to a flagrant one on Nova And then when Brennan and Kata get into it and Kata pushes him off, you call a double common foul on him. Either it's just a foul on Kata, or his has to be upgraded into a flagrant one.
And look, Brennan was mixing it up with him, and there
Yeah.
was contact from Brennan. So as I exploded to you via text message at first and said, "What is that? How is that a double foul?" Then I thought about it a little bit more. I said, "You can call that a double foul, but then you have to upgrade Caba's foul to a flagrant. It's a two-hand shove, a forcible two-hand shove." Brennan, did he act it a little bit? Sure. He sold it, no doubt about it. But it was still a forcible two-hand shove. It was way more contact than the grabbing of the arm. Now, the grabbing of the arm is an automatic flagrant one. I didn't complain about that call at all in a moment. It stunk. It hurt. It wasn't ideal for Villanova, but letter of the law, it's the right call. They have to call that. It's just the way the rule is written. You know what else is written in the rule? You can't shove a guy two hands. You can't just shove him to the ground. That's also in the rule book as a flagrant one. I thought that should have been called as well. I had a much bigger problem with the lead blocking, though, down the stretch. It's very hard to defend that. I'm not understanding how you are supposed to defend that. If you're gonna, if you're gonna let him run a pick and roll and just let the guy meander all the way down the lane and just move his derriere into the defender. Again, if he's opening up to catch the ball, fine. But he's not doing that. He is literally, clearly moving in the path of the defender who is coming over to cut the driver off. That's the definition of an illegal screen, is it not?
Yes, it is. I mean, it's an illegal screen.
And they just did it on a loop. And it was very smart by BYU. Once they got away with it once, they kind of set the tone. We're not going to call it. Keep going to it. I thought both coaches did a great job of that, by the way. I was very impressed by both coaches in when they found something that worked, just kept going to the well. And especially early in the season, I think that's a big deal. You don't have to overcomplicate things. In fact, your team's probably not prepared to have things be overcomplicated. You need to keep it as simple as possible. If you have something that's working that the other team does not know how to defend, roll it until they figure it out. And both guys, I thought, really did a good job of that. Villanova running Bryce Lindsey off the same two screen combinations over and over again for that long stretch of the second half, and then BYU down the stretch with that pick and roll dive to the basket. I mean, Villanova had to go zone in the closing minutes because they could not figure out how to do anything about that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this goes back to what are you doing on the screen? I get the Kata part, but Duke Brennan was kind of just putting himself in that position to get that screen because he's just standing there.
Got to fight.
You got to do something. You got to fight your way around it. You got to hedge on that. I would have loved to see one time try hedging it, let Kata roll and have somebody come over and take a charge on him. I would have loved that, but at some point, you got to figure out on that high ball screen what you're actually trying to do. And it seemed like Duke Brennan just kept staying in no man's land and kind of allowing Kata to do what he wanted. That was my biggest issue with it. Is it's an illegal screen, but you can't just stay there and keep allowing him to do it. Move off of it. Go all the way over and make him do something else. Make him do something else. That's where the fight really drove me crazy.
Well, and then another thing too, speaking of driving crazy, and this to Kevin Willard's credit, he did make the adjustment on it quick, but you put Pierce out there, it's just not Pierce's game, man. I mean, it's just there's no matchup there for him. I suppose maybe if you're going to go zone, then perhaps he can be out there. But I mean, he had it was a short run. But when he was out there, BYU went on an 8-0 run. I was a little surprised. I know that it's the first game. I know you're playing long term, and I know you're trying to steal some minutes because you got Brennan out there, and he's just battling his tail off, and you want him to be fresh in the second half. But that wasn't that's just an impossible matchup for Pierce. He's just not laterally quick enough to play against that team.
Mm-hmm. No, he's not. I mean, he couldn't play in this game. I don't think he's quick enough. I don't think he's strong enough to play with Kata. So yeah, I agree. But all right, looking at the stat sheet here, the other thing that we have to talk about is the free throw line. I mean, 8 for 15 from the free throw line.
Timely misses too.
Yeah, you can't shoot 53% from the free throw line.
And missed the
Yeah.
front end. So that counts. I
Hmm.
mean, it's actually 50% because you cost yourself another opportunity.
Exactly. Like you lose by 5 and you missed 7 free throws. That's not one for one math, but like that 53%, that's not going to get it done any night. It's just not. That's not good enough ever. So,
All right, so we look at this as it goes forward. So we talked about our good, we talked about our bad. Um, what do we think is going to stay in those categories? What are we worried about can't get out of the bad towards the good? And what of the good do we think sustainable? Let's start with that direction. So Bryce Lindsey, he's not going to shoot 5 of 9 from 3
no.
every single game. He's not going to score 22 a night, but he looks like a legit offensive weapon. I think that's a permanent good.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that Duke Brennan can be a guy who battles every night and is bringing down double digit rebounds. So I think that is a good that can stay as well. I mean, rebounding is all about effort, but yeah, so Lindsay and Brennan in
And Chris
some
Jeffrey.
form. Yeah,
And Chris Jeffrey. I don't know what Chris Jeffrey's role is. I don't think he's scoring 11 points a night most nights, but I'm going to be surprised if by Big East play he's not playing 20 minutes a game.
yeah.
I truly believe that at this point.
No, I think so too. I think his physicality and his drive is going to get him on Kevin Willard's good graces and getting him driving up those minutes as well.
All right, bads. What is going to be something that is going to be an issue all year long, and what is something that maybe don't overreact to one game?
Something that's going to be there all year long, I'm afraid, is going to be the 3 point shooting. I think that's unless Tyler Perkins either, like I said, he starts hitting a few more of those. I think that Acaden Lewis is probably going to shoot better most nights than he did tonight, and probably going to shoot a little more. But I think every night you're going to look at the 3 point line and say, that number's got to come up. That's my biggest fear, is that every night you're going to be concerned about the 3 point line.
How about Acaden Lewis? Is that something? I mean, I don't think anybody thinks he's going to be a 5 point a game guy, but
No,
is there? Did BYU show something that other teams can take advantage of in terms of how to deal with Lewis? Was it first game jitters and then it kind of snowballed on him? What are we thinking the explanation for this is?
I think BYU showed something that, yeah, you can take advantage of early in the season. I think he's going to learn from this. I'm not concerned about Acaden Lewis getting better and learning how to play against length, which is ultimately what this came down to, is playing against length, learning when to take your shots, when to drive, when to try and throw it over the top. I think he's going to learn from all of that. I'm not concerned. It's a little concerning that Kevin Willard seemed to pull the plug as quickly as he did, especially like you said, he hits a three towards the end of the first half, and then he only played 5 minutes in the second half. Seems like that's a little too soon. But
Now look, and again, I think Caden Lewis is Villanova needs Caden Lewis to be their best player
yeah,
to get anywhere near the NCAA tournament. He did play well, and they were
yeah,
not 5 good minutes to start the second half. I do think.
no,
I think what happened was they pulled him with the plan to go back to him, and then they started clicking, and Kevin Willard felt he needed to stick the direction that he had stuck. Again, the one counter to that is I thought Devin Askew was struggling as much as Acaden Lewis, and he brought Devin Askew back in 3 or 4 times late in that game, where he never brought Acaden Lewis back in, which was a little surprising to me. But I just think the idea was we'll sit him down, try to calm him down, and then go back to them, and they started playing well. Chris Jeffrey came on, sparked the
Yeah.
offense. Bryce Lindsey started making shots, and so they just never went back.
No, I agree. And I think if it had been 10 minutes, if it had been 8 minutes of the second half, like at least he's getting in the flow and you can say, no, it's just not his night. Those 5 minutes weren't great, but I just feel like they were too soon. It was too soon to pull him. I hope it doesn't shake his confidence or doesn't shake that the coaches have confidence in him. I think that's going to be most important for him. But I'm not overly worried. We saw him have two good exhibition games. Not overly worried about this game exposing him for something.
How about fool's gold? I think that's pretty easy to figure out. I don't think Villanova is going to be a +6 rebounding team against a team as big as and long as BYU. I think that was very encouraging what they did on the glass, but I think we'd be kidding ourselves if we think that's going to be a regularity this year. I still don't necessarily know how they did it, other than Duke Brennan's a warrior, but it was impressive how many one and dones they forced. I think some of it was shot selected by BYU, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
threes we're not off of good stuff.
Yeah, and part of it is I don't think BYU really crashed the offensive glass as hard as some teams will. I think they sent some guys back that probably would have crashed on other teams, but probably not going to out rebound everybody all year. But I'm hopeful that the rebounding stays up. I'm hoping that it's already better than I could have ever imagined. So I'm hoping that it will be even better than what I projected going into this game. So a little bit of fool's gold, but I think this gave me hope that they can compete on the glass.
All right, so encouraging effort or opportunity loss?
I'm going to go with encouraging effort. I want to go opportunity loss, but I think it's an encouraging effort. I don't think this was a game that they were expected to win. I don't think a 5-point loss is going to hurt you. Yes, a win would have done so much for the resume, but a 5-point loss to BYU, is that going to be what keeps you out of the tournament? No. So I'd say that it was an encouraging effort. It showed that they had the ability to fight with a team with as much talent as BYU. They just came up a little bit short tonight. And we've talked about the reasons why that happened. Some of those are fixable. Some of them may be a season-long issue. The offense going stagnant and struggling to put the ball in the basket could be a season-long issue. But I think that for the most part, I go out of this game feeling pretty encouraged about what's going to come for the rest of the season.
Would it be cheating, since I'm the one that asked the question, if I said it was both? I mean, I do think it was both. They I don't know how many more opportunities they're going to have to beat a team that good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many points Michigan scored tonight? 115?
Yeah.
I don't know if Villanova scored 115 against many opponents this year. I don't know if there's going to be multiple games where they don't score 115 in 2 games. I don't think you're getting Michigan. Maybe you get Wisconsin. So then you're going to have to go into Big East play. You need these big non-conference wins. That was one you could feel the whole league, the whole league on the precipice of, look at this. Our preseason 7th place team stealing one from the number 8 team in the country, from the prohibitive thought of top pick in next year's NBA draft. And it just didn't come to fruition. And yet, look, man, they didn't play that well. I don't think they're a good 3-point shooting team. I really hope that they're not going to be 10 to 35 all year long. I do think they're going to be better than that. I think they're going to sit mid-30s. I don't think they're going to sit, 29%. Otherwise, it's going to be, not only is it going to be tough to win games consistently, it's going to be a tough watch because they're going to have to shoot threes. And they're going to be quicker. That's probably the quick. Would you agree that's probably the best combination of quickness and length they'll face this year, outside of UConn, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. UConn, maybe,
I mean, I thought
maybe St.
St. John's
John's.
St. John's given up a lot of points now in every exhibition game, and I
Mhm.
mean they gave up 78 tonight to Quinnipiac. So they might not be as quick and as athletic as I had anticipated coming into the year.
Michigan is quick. I don't think they're as long. So there's a difference there. But yeah, I mean, I guess combination wise, probably between BYU and UConn.
So I think my point being, I think Villanova will be able to go to the basket and they will be able to
Mhm.
execute pick and roll better against a lot of other teams. This
Yeah.
was very difficult to do those two things. So then when you add into it the 10 of 35 shooting night from three, it was always going to be a really big ask. It's actually, that's the thing I'm most encouraged by. They go 10 of 35 from three and they lose by 5 to the number 8 team in the country. That's good. Now, what's more likely to happen? Them out rebounding a team with that type of size and length, or them making threes? The question is, or the answer is maybe neither. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
really know what to make of that right now. But it's just, I mean, listen, man, I have to apologize to our friends at the Blue and Gray podcast. All the grief, and I still stand by this grief, all the grief I gave Georgetown all off season long about their inability to make perimeter jumpers. We're now, I mean, 2 don't count, but we watched them play 2 exhibition games. They couldn't make perimeter jumpers, Villanova. And we
Mhm.
watched them tonight get good shot after good shot, theoretically, and they wouldn't go in if Bryce Lindsey wasn't shooting them. Everything I said Georgetown was, Villanova is. Georgetown still is, I think, too, by the way, but Villanova has the exact same struggles I was crushing Georgetown for.
Yeah, I mean, so we're gonna see if this 3-point shoot. I guess I don't know. It gun to my head. You said, uh, are they gonna rebound this well or shoot this poorly every night? I guess I'd take rebounding because I feel like rebounding is just effort.
That would be good,
Shooting, yeah, but
but I'm not sure about that. I mean, I
I'm
don't know.
not either.
I
I
also
couldn't
think that
tell you.
Villanova could just be this. I don't think, but it's not impossible that this is who they are as a 3-point shooting team.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, we all say Acaden Lewis is going to play better, but the book on him was he's not a good 3-point shooting guy.
Hmm.
Like I was thinking, Kevin Willard said he was improving, still has his goal at 35%. That's that X factor number. He just hasn't sniffed anywhere near there yet. He's going to be
No.
way better than this in every other facet, but I can't sit there and say he's going to be a guy that steps up and makes a lot of threes. There's nothing there's no proof that I can point to that I can make that argument other than I hope he does. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's not a great spot to be in right now. But again, 5-point loss, 8th ranked team in the country. We both think BYU right now is a little bit overrated, but I think BYU will be very good by the end of the year. I think that they will come close to this ranking at the end of the year. I don't
Yeah.
know if they're anywhere near the 8th best team in the country right now, though. Do you?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think there's any way that's the 8th best team in the country. If there is, then there are a lot of not great teams in the country.
That might be true. Did you see the scores today? No one plays defense, evidently, in college
That's true.
basketball anymore. We went from 3 or 4 years ago, nobody could score, to now no one plays any defense whatsoever. Like, it was just wild watching them. Because, again, I did a women's game earlier today. So I came straight from the women's game home. I actually watched the first 20 minutes of the Villanova game on DVR trying to get caught up. And, like, just looking at the bottom line, it's 115 to 73. 120 to 86. I said, what are we doing? Preseason NBA basketball? Or is this the first regular season college basketball day? It's just a wild thing that we have in college basketball right now. Congratulations to Denise Dillon's team. They got a win in their season opener, just romped Lafayette 70 to 38. And the most impressive part of that, the freshman Kennedy Henry that Denise Dillon is so high on, she led all scorers with 13 points. Jasmine Bosco did not shoot the ball well. She was 1 for her first 8, and Villanova was up by 24 points. So talk about something that's a good sign. I know Lafayette's not very good, but if you're crushing a team with your best players struggling, I do think
Mm-hmm.
Denise Dillon's team is built a little bit differently, and we're going to talk all about that on Thursday as we will turn the page to women's basketball. Coming up, we will have interviews that we did at Media Day with Kylie Watson and with Danae Carter. We're trying to get out to the game on Wednesday as they will play Fairfield on Wednesday night. Get some sound from that contest, some pictures as well from the Finn as a women's basketball program. 2 games in the span of 3 days to start their season. They got the win. The men unfortunately did not. They come up short 71-66. They're back in action against, evidently, this is a real school. They're playing Queens on Saturday. I didn't know that was a thing. I don't know
It's a
if
real
Kevin
school
James
right in my backyard.
is Kevin James on the board of trustees or what's going on there? But their coach has been going after Kevin Willard. I'm sure that will come up in the coming days as well. So that's coming up on Saturdays. Villanova will look to regroup. We have so much coming up here on the Big East Energy Network. Excuse me for checking here on the screen, but I want to make sure I get our order of operation right. We're getting the day started, but there's a lot more to come. Obviously, Hoop Caps Women's Show was out there as well with Mark. A ton of people watch that, ton to be excited about. Then the DePod is coming up next at 1:30. Later today, you'll hear from the Roll Blob fellas at 3 o'clock. That's the Xavier Show. And then at 5 p.m., our guy Brian Webster, the guy that puts together all the art for us, he will be on the Pirate Vibe Show with Patrick Madden. And Patrick Madden, by the way, kudos to him. He called Duke Brennan being Villanova's best player coming into the year. I don't know if long-term he's their best player, but he was their best player tonight. David, final thoughts on this heartbreaking but probably deserved 71-66 opening loss?
Turn the page and move on. I mean, I think that uh, Lewis is going to play better. Askew is going to get better as he gets healthier. It stings. This stings because it felt like a game they could win. But I think ultimately this is going to help them long term in the season and a long Big East, grueling Big East schedule. So turn the page. They played well tonight. They just didn't have it to win it. Ultimately, I think it was still a good effort.
We will next talk to you on Thursday at 12 noon. Again, we're going to be here twice a week, rest of the season. Tuesdays, Thursdays, 12 noon will be our premiere. It'll be available on YouTube after that. Please subscribe if you haven't already to the Big East Energy Network. Like the video, smash that like button. It's a big deal for us. Big deal for the Cats as they hung in there, but they fall to BYU. For David White, I'm Matt Janus. We will talk to you on Thursday. Make sure you please stay tuned for the DePod coming up, our DePaul show in just a little bit on the Big East Energy Network.